Hello everyone, and welcome to Modernizing Old Hymns number 6. Today it's back to hymn number 428 in the Lutheran hymnal, I Am Trusting Thee, Lord Jesus. I'm going to make it more interesting today. Today we're not going to play it on one chord, but on two chords. Okay, so first of all, what chords should we use? First of all, we need to know what key the song is in. Now, if we look at the music here, you see it's got one sharp. If you're not too familiar with all the different scales, you can find information on the internet that'll tell you just what one sharp means, two sharp means, and so on. But if you look it up, you'll see that F sharp means we've either got the key of G major or we've got the key of E minor. How can we tell? Look at the very last note. The last note is a G, and that cinches it for us. This is in G major. If it were an E, then it would be E minor. Now, one thing I've done for those of you who may not read music very well is I wrote the names of the notes underneath the notes. Okay, what should our second chord be? This is the key of G major, so the first chord is G major. What should our second chord be? The rule is to take the fifth. They call it the fifth. It's inclusive reckoning. We're going to count to 4 steps. So we've got our G note. The next note is A, B, C, and D. So we're going to take a D chord and we're going to make that a D7th chord. So our two chords will be G major and D7th. Now, for those of you who are using the open G tuning, of course, the G major chord is just to play the open strings. The D7th chord is going to be index finger, second string, first fret, middle finger on the third string, second fret. For you open G players, the standard tuning for the banjo is an open G. So if you look up the banjo chord charts, you'll see a lot of the chords that you need right there. But today, you guitar players know that song. That's an ancient Chinese song called tuning. I want to teach you standard tuning guitar players some tricks here too. Okay, now when do we know to play the G chord and when to play the D7th chord? Well, here's the first method we're going to use. We're going to use the fourth uke. Yeah, we're just going to try and pull it out of the air. There's only 2 chords here. Let's go to the first measure of I Am Trusting Thee, Lord Jesus, and first we'll try it with the G chord. I am trusting. Let's try it with the D7th chord. I am trusting. The G chord sounds better, doesn't it? Go to the next measure. Thee, Lord Jesus, Thee, Lord Jesus, Thee, Lord. Especially on that first note, which is the most important note of the measure. The G chord sounds good. Let's go to the next measure. Trusting only, G chord again. Let's go to that next single note measure. Thee, hey, we found our first D7th chord. Okay, next measure. Trusting thee for trusting thee for... this one's almost up for grabs. I'm going with the G. The G sounds better to me. And the reason for that probably is because the Lutheran hymnal itself uses a G chord on that first note. So playing it by ear, what I'm calling using the force, is actually what we call playing by ear. What sounds the best, right? Okay, next measure. Full salvation, full salvation, full. Again, on that first note, the G sounds better. And then the next measure, great and D7th again, free. And one of the patterns in the world of music is that if a song is in the key of G major, the last note is probably going to be a G on a G major chord. Okay, here I wrote down what we just did. Let me play through it once, supplying the melody with my voice so you get a better idea of what we just did. I am trusting thee, Lord Jesus, trusting only thee. Trusting thee for full salvation, great and free. Here's a good beginner's version of this song. You can use a more elaborate strum. I am trusting thee, Lord Jesus, trusting only thee. Okay, I kind of like that one because it really emphasizes the first note of the measure. How about something like a calypso strum? 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Like Earl Scruggs said in his banjo book, now do that 1,000 times. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. I am trusting thee, Lord Jesus, trusting only thee. Okay, that's maybe not a good congregational arrangement of the hymn. You might try something like this with your Sunday school class once. Yeah, I've seen at least some kids really perk up when you give it a stronger rhythm like that. Okay, what I have here is a chart of the G major scale. Low G at the bottom, high G at the top. And on either side, I have the G major chord and the D7th chord. Notice that 4 of these notes belong to the G chord. G, B, and D. Really only 3 because this G is a repeat, right? It'll keep repeating itself as we go up the scale. The D7th chord uses 4 notes from the scale: A, C, D, and F sharp. So what we're going to do is when we see a B note, we're going to write the G major chord over it. If we see an A note, we're going to write the D7th chord over it. If we see an F sharp, we're going to write the D7th chord over it, and so on. Now, there are a couple problems here. The E is hanging by itself. How do we know whether to play a G or a D7th if we see an E note? Another problem we've got is the D note is shared by both chords. If we see a D note, how do we know which chord to play? Well, in these cases, it helps if you look at the notes around the note in question. Okay, if we see a D note and it's followed by a C, well then chances are that D should be played with the D7th chord. If we see a D note, don't know which one to play, it's followed by a B, well then chances are we should play that D note on the G major chord. Same thing with the E. If we see an E and it's followed by a C, then probably best to play the D7th chord. So here we have it. We've got a B note. A B note belongs with the G chord. 3 of those in a row. That was easy, okay? A goes with the D7th chord. B, the B note, goes with the G chord. Now we've got a D. Okay, we don't know which one to play, G or D7th. Let's look at the notes around it. This one doesn't help us. That's another D. Okay, but here we have a B, which belongs to the G chord. So I put the B and the D both on the G chord. Now here we have a D note again. This doesn't help us, but there's a C note here. D and C are both notes of the D7th chord. So I wrote a D7th up here. The rest of this here is pretty easy. B on the G, B on the G, A on the D7th, G on the G, A on the D7th. And this is the peskiest measure of the whole song here. There's a D. What do we play? We don't know. Okay. There's an E. That doesn't help us either. The E was hanging by itself. There's an F sharp. Okay. And you're thinking maybe I should make this a D7th and this a D7th too. I can't say that's wrong, okay? Same thing up here too. If you wanted to play a G on that note, I can't say that's wrong either, because D does belong to the G chord. Try either one, see what you like best. Again, playing by ear, I already determined the last time that G sounds better on this one. That's just what I'm used to. Okay, E followed by the F sharp. I'm going to give that a D7th. Okay, because F sharp belongs to the D7th. Now, you auto harp players, you might be worried. If I play an E note, I have to have a chord that contains that E note or I can't play it. Did somebody mention E minor somewhere in this video? If you have to. The rest of us will just play D7th for the pair here, the couplet. All right. G goes on the G chord, F sharp on the D7th. Again, G on the G, A on the D7th, B on the G. Again, you auto harp players, you're going to have to play both chords, D7th, quickly followed by a G, just an 8th beat. But the rest of us, I highlighted that G, that 8th note isn't all that important. We can just go from the D7th to the D7th, and B on G, A on D7th, G on G. Okay, now you can choose your own level of difficulty. You can play the first chord of every measure and let it go at that. You can play every other chord as kind of an intermediate difficulty. Or you can play every one of those chords. Okay, I'm going to play it on one chord again. You see I circled the chords right there. There's one place where I'm going to make an exception. It might be a quick chord change for you beginners, but it sounds so nifty. Try to throw it in if you can. Okay. I am trusting thee, Lord Jesus, trusting only thee. Trusting thee for full salvation, great and free. Okay, intermediate version next. I'm going to strum every other chord. I am trusting thee, Lord Jesus, trusting only thee. Trusting thee for full salvation, great and Okay, now I'm going to play the chord on every note. This is going to make for some quick chord changes here. One thing I should mention too, if you're playing along with somebody who plays an auto harp, you are going to have some sour notes if you don't play the same chords they're playing. So let's, I'm going to throw in that blue G this time too. Let's see how that sounds. I am trusting thee, Lord Jesus, trusting only thee, trusting thee for full salvation, great and free. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we just did here. We came to conclusion as to which of the two chords should go where. First by using the floss, playing it by ear, and then we did it a little more scientifically with the chart here. Okay, now today using the chart seemed to go pretty quick, didn't it? I really, if I had to pick one of the two methods, I would really urge you to play by ear as much as you can. The playing by ear seemed kind of slow today, but it gets faster with practice. It can be just lightning fast. I often jam with bluegrass musicians, and people are so amazed. We might come together as a group. A lot of us haven't met each other. We haven't heard each other's songs, but we go through the songs a couple of times. Then we're playing it just like we knew the music all our life. We've learned to play by ear. We can pick out a lot more than just two chords. So keep practicing. It gets faster. On the other hand, if you're wanting to learn about music theory, yeah, this is something you want to keep in mind there. So next time, we'll work in the melody with those two chords. Not just one chord this time. It's going to take quite a bit more than just one finger next time to play that. Now, that'll be for those of you who strum. For those of you who like to pick the notes instead, play one note at a time rather than multiple strings at a time, I'll spend the lesson after that on a 3-finger pick that's very useful for hymns and the hymnal, especially on the guitar. But again, I think there's still applications for other people as well, other musicians. And then after that, we'll play same hymn, 3 chords. Okay, then after that, we'll be ready to move on to something new. I hope you had fun today. Thank you for watching.